Hey, good morning, everybody. Just Friday morning, just got done dropping Elijah off at daycare. I'm heading down to Table Rock Lake for an instructional jerkbait trip. Should be good. It's not like freezing cold out. It's supposed to be in the 40s today, so that's going to be nice. Not have guides, ice forming up in your guides, but going to take a little bit of time here. If you've been following me, I've been starting to do these YouTube videos a lot, and I'm going to start doing more and more because it's such a great avenue as far as to share information and help teach people and and also to help grow our own social media, because that's in fishing today. It's like that's so important as far as having Facebook and Instagram and YouTube as a way to help expose your sponsor products and help build the brand name of the companies that you work with. So I appreciate everybody tuning in on these videos and following me on social media because it's something that we really need and really rely on as professional fishermen. But one of the things I'm going to start doing this year is I'm going to start sharing a lot of information, a lot of tips with everybody, because I'm in my late 50s now. Been doing this a long time, and for me, when you get that age, you start sort of developing sort of at least I do, like a sort of a mentor personality a little bit, and it's very satisfying to share information with other people that want that information. So that's sort of what I'm going to be doing on my YouTube videos moving forward. And what I want to cover this morning, driving to the lake, got a little bit of time, is I want to address one of the two biggest questions I get asked from everybody on my social media or just fishing in general. It's like, how do you become a professional fisherman? And the second one is, how do you get sponsors, which I'll save for a later video. But today I just want to talk about, how do you become a professional fisherman? What does it take? And that, I could write a book on that. That's a long topic, but I'm going to go over a few of the highlights, to give you sort of an idea. First thing that you got to have, if you want to do this for a living, and if you want to do anything for a living in a career-wise, what I'm talking about, that requires some type of like a self-employment aspect to it, is you have to love what you're doing. You have to have that passion and desire behind it, or you're not going to be successful, because that passion and desire is going to demand, if you have that and that love for it, it's going to demand that you get everything else that you need to be successful in it. If you don't have that, your success at it is going to be limited and short-term at best. So the first thing you have to do before you even go any further about this professional fishing deal is, like, do you absolutely love it to the point of, are you willing to sacrifice to make it happen? And are you willing to not only sacrifice to make it happen, but are you going to be willing to take the time and put in the effort over a long period of time to make it happen, and be patient with it? And if you do have that, then congratulations, welcome to the club, because it's a very, very small club, I can assure you. And in my own situation, I'll use this for example. I really decided I wanted to do this back when I was in high school in the late 70s. And back then, pro fishing was just starting out. I mean, man, it hadn't been around but 10 years or so. And the guys that I read about were guys like Roland Martin. He was like huge back then. Bill Dance, Jack Haynes, Bo Dowden, Hank Parker was coming on, Basil Bacon, here in Missouri was strong. And even Johnny Morris, the guy that owns Bass Pro Shop, he was big time into BASS and made 5 or 6 classics. So those are the guys that were sort of the stars back when I was doing it, starting out. But in my particular case, you have to sacrifice to be able to do this. And in my case, I had no social life growing up. I didn't go to parties. I never went to a single prom. I didn't have a girlfriend until I was 23. All I did is work and fish. I worked in order to scrape together enough money to go fishing, and that's the thing that you have to do. Is there's everybody's situation is different in the finance part of it. you got, like I said, assuming that you have that desire and that intention to do that and that love for it, the second thing that you have to overcome if you're going to be a professional angler is how to afford it. And everybody's situation is different. Some people are fortunate enough to have, a lot of family money, people helping them out financially, or you can be on the other end of the spectrum like myself, and you have to do it all your own. And if you have to do it your own, like I did, it's going to take you a lot longer, because you have to work and earn money to buy equipment, to buy tackle, to buy a boat starting out, entry fees, everything. It just makes it a lot more difficult if you don't have money. And I can assure you that, because I've been there, I've done that, I understand it, I get it. And I salute everybody that has to go through it, because it's a tough thing to do. But if you have that love, and if this is what you want to do, you're going to make it happen. You're going to be willing to make those sacrifices in order to achieve your dream. So that's the first two things we'll talk about. That's the first two things that I covered: intention and desire, passion, love for the sport, and figuring out how to afford to do it, starting out. Excuse me. The second thing that you're going to have to do is you got to put in your dirt time. And dirt time is basically your learning experience, and which never stops, by the way. I still put in my dirt time, and you got to start doing that. You got to be disciplined when you're doing that. And it's changed a lot, because back when I was starting out, there was no information on tournaments. I mean, you had magazines that had real generic, basic information on it, and you had the opportunity to learn and fish on your own, or talk to other good anglers, like at seminars. There wasn't any the internet, there wasn't any YouTube, there wasn't any like tournament type videos. The biggest thing that I can tell you right now is that take advantage of all the videos out there on tournaments. All the rest of the shows, forget about them. Focus on watching tournament videos, because you're seeing in real time what's working. These guys, a lot of them are willing to share what they're doing. You can see the areas they're fishing, you can see the pace they're fishing at, you can see what they're fishing with, you can see how they approach their water and how they manage their water. It's just invaluable. And on top of that, you have to do that in correlation with your own time on the water, because the only way that you can get a feel for like how to move on the water and where to be at the right place at the right time and how to make adjustments on the water is through time on the water. And the videos can really help speed up that learning process a tremendous amount. I mean, for example, flipping, back when I started out, it took me years and years and years to understand the whole subtle aspects and details of flipping. And you can learn in an hour on YouTube as much as you can. It took me 10 years on my own flipping. So take advantage of that, and then go out, duplicate that in the water, and sort of form your own style around it. Next thing we'll talk about is versatility versus strengths. In order to be a successful tournament fisherman, you have to have that combination, that fine line of being a versatile angler versus having a strength that you're good at. And the strength that you're good at are the things that usually are the ways that you love to fish. And in my situation, I love to flip and I love to throw jerkbait. So when I get into those scenarios where flipping or jerkbait is working on the lakes, I really have to capitalize on that, and I really have to focus in on that and make that commitment to that, because I know if I can get on that bite, I can usually do really well in the tournament. And so along with your strengths, obviously you have to be versatile, because if you're going to be fishing all across the country, every imaginable type of water that you can find, and your strengths aren't always going to work. So you have to be able to back that up with the versatility of different techniques. And another thing I want to stress to you a little bit is that just the big deal now, what's really happened in the last few years is this: explosion in electronic technology. Now, there's two different schools of thought on this. Is you can adopt and you can really center your fishing around all the technology enhancements in electronics, or you can stay more basic and you can, basically focus in on object-oriented stuff on the bank, and you can still do well. You can make a living fishing stuff that you can see on the bank, or you can make a living fishing stuff that you can see on your electronics. So you have to make that determination. Do you want to be a sort of an underwater angler, as far as where you really focus on your electronics a lot, or do you want to be like a super shallow water angler where you're focused on your instincts and your intuition more, or do you want to try to combine the two together, which is ideally the best situation you can use? So don't get overwhelmed by that. Don't get overwhelmed by the electronics, because you see a lot of guys out there that have 4 units on their boat and, spend $15,000-$20,000 on electronics. You can get out there. There's lots of different options, as far as, like, for example, with the Lowrance. Lowrance makes a large range of different electronics at different price ranges that are just, state of the art. So don't get caught up in thinking you have to spend $15,000 to be able to compete with your electronics game, because you don't. There's other options and other available things to do out there. But sort of make that determination, sort of like fall into your style as an angler. And what this is going to do, this is going to be an evolution that takes place early on in your career. The way that you like to fish, whether it be offshore or on the bank, power fishing, finesse fishing. A lot of it also has to do with the geographic area of the country that you're in. But basically what I'm saying here is that be aware of the fact, when you're starting out wanting to do this for a living, be aware of the fact that you have to develop your own style. And you can copy that off of other anglers, but ultimately you have to do that on your own. You have to do what feels right to you, and you'll know what that is. It happens for every angler out there, and but my point is just be really aware of that. Next thing I want to talk about is really work on forming a network of friends that you can trust in and around fishing, in and around the tournaments. And these are friends that you can talk with about fishing, about techniques, about patterns, and you have a mutual beneficial relationship with these people. Not only you can trust these people to feed you correct information, but you can also rely on the fact that they're going to respect your wishes on the information that you feed them, whether you say it's okay to share that information or not. But once you develop a network of friends, and it doesn't have to be very big, it can be a small network of friends, but once you develop a network of friends, that really strengthens your game as an angler, and in turn it can strengthen your buddy's game as an angler as well, because if you're having a hard time with something, and you've got a network, a lot of times those people will throw you a bone, and vice versa. If somebody else is having a hard time, you can give them a little bit of stuff that may help them out. And when this is done properly, it helps both. It helps everybody out. And that's the key, is developing these relationships with people that you can trust and that are balanced and well-rounded. And that's just something that you have to go through a process with, because everybody that does that, you go through a process of information sharing where sometimes it's lopsided, and those are the relationships that aren't good to be in. So try to find that balanced point, and it's going to help everybody out as well. Next thing you need to really focus in on is growing your social media presence. And I can tell you right now, unless you're independently wealthy, or if you just win everything that you're fishing, you have got to develop a strong social media presence. Because in terms of exposing a sponsor's product, growing the brand impression for that company that you're partnered with, and giving a good return on the investment that they have in you, you have got to be able to quantify how many people are being exposed, to what you're doing. And in today's world, and in 2020, you can go out and win 2 or 3 tournaments a year, and you're not going to have the value as somebody that never even makes a check in a tournament, yet has a strong social media following. You cannot deny or underestimate the importance of social media in professional fishing, because it's the best avenue there is to bring value to a partnership that you have. And so I would highly suggest, getting set up on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and start developing that following, because that's just the way the reality is in 2020. It's not 1995 anymore, where everything was dependent upon seminars and winning tournaments. That's not the way it is anymore. So if you're not comfortable with it, I highly suggest you get comfortable with it. Talk to people that can help you out. Try to do as much research as you can, and just start out slow. You can be modest with it and just slowly grow that base up. And so you have to work in correlation with your social media skills, with your on the water skills, your speaking skills. All that stuff goes hand in hand with it. And like I said, I'm assuming when I say this stuff, I'm assuming that you're not financially independent, because the few people out there that are financially independent, you can throw all this out the window and it doesn't make any difference how they do. They could have 0 social media following. They couldn't even catch a fish in a bathtub if the bathtub is full of fish. Yet they're still going to be out there year after year because they can afford to do it. But I'm speaking to those people out there, like myself, that have got to scrape and scrimp and crawl to get started in a sport. So I know I've been there. I know how that is, and so that's a big consideration for you to make. But anyway, that's just a few things. If you got any additional, there's a lot more to it, obviously. But if you get, which we'll cover in later videos. But if you got some questions, feel free to drop a comment on this video, and I'll be glad to answer it. It's a good topic for future YouTube videos. And anyway, gonna get driving here, getting ready to time my jerk baits and go ahead and catch a few on table rock. And hope you guys have a good day. Talk to you later.